This is Desm 101. Thanks for tuning in. Today, let's review King Kong 2 on the Famicom. King Kong 2 is a Konami game released for the Famicom in 1986 and loosely based on the film King Kong Lives. It is a top-down action-adventure game where you need to lead King Kong through 9 worlds, collecting keys to rescue his love, Lady Kong. It looks pretty good for its time, but it's nothing quite as inspired as Contra or Metal Gear. You encounter an interesting variety of monsters and bosses in each of the differently themed worlds, and need to find warp doors and power-ups such as parts of King Kong's artificial heart to help you complete your quest. So first, let's have a look at the film the game is based on. The movie was released in the States as King Kong Lives, and the same film in Japan is titled King Kong 2. It's a sequel to the 1976 film King Kong. So that's why there isn't a King Kong 1 video game. They only made a video game for this sequel. Kind of confusing, I know. The film is one of those classic B-style 80s movies with a ton of bizarre concepts thrown in to try and make the story and set pieces seem really unique. It takes place immediately after the 1976 King Kong film, where he falls from the Twin Towers, and you might think he should die from that, but actually it turns out that he's gone into a coma for 10 years and now he needs a new heart. The visual effects are kind of a mixed bag. As a kid, I remember loving the film and watching in awe at the strange scenes like the artificial heart transplant. I recall the movie would often show on TV during the weekends in the late 80s. It's certainly not a great movie, but it remains a curiosity in the history of King Kong films. So for the game, the only concepts that made it from the movie are King Kong, Lady Kong, the artificial heart, and well, that's about it. The tone of the game is really very cartoony and lighthearted, from the cutscenes at the beginning showing Kong separated from his lady, to the moment when he declares his love after finding a key in each world. It's pretty obvious Konami didn't want to take this project too serious, and you can tell from some of the goofy enemy designs like fire-breathing octopi, strange aliens, giant ducks, and so on. King Kong seems to have a good sense of size and weight, illustrated by the shaking of the screen whenever he lands, and the simple sprite does a good job to depict the hero. Kong starts off with 100 hit points indicated in the upper left-hand corner. He can also switch to a projectile attack by pressing the select button to switch the function of the B button to throw rocks instead of punches. The defeated enemies will drop hearts to refill your life, and also rocks to refill your supply. In addition to the dropped items are several other items which are critical to Kong making it through the game. The two most important of these are keys and the pieces of Kong's artificial heart, previously mentioned before. The keys will grant you access to the final boss to save Lady Kong, although it's not mandatory, and the artificial heart pieces will add 100 hit points each to Kong's overall life. The remaining items are power-ups such as Invincibility Star, Rock Case that allows Kong to carry more rocks, a Speed Potion to increase Kong's movement speed, a Rock Damage power-up, and also a Screen-Clearing Smart Bomb, as well as the Konami favorites, a Moai Head as a 1-up item, and Konami Man himself makes an appearance after you pick up the Konami logo. When you first fire up the game, it's a fun romp running around the world as Kong destroying background details and fighting enemies. Soon, you will notice the layout of the world is akin to something in Metal Gear. Some directions might be blocked or loop, and there is flashing doors seen in some of the rooms which lead to another door. Then you realize you have no idea where you need to go. The game's story doesn't really explain what exactly you need to do, and also I don't have the manual, so you'll likely become lost as you explore which doors lead to where, and if you should be taking them. When you pause, there is a handy status screen which gives you some clues as to what you need to do, such as telling you what world you're located in, how many keys you've collected, total HP, and rock count. So while there are 9 bosses in each world, the game never tells you where to find the bosses, and even after you've beat a boss, it won't tell you how to get to the next world. Even when you go to a warp that leads you to another world, you need to check the pause screen to tell you where you ended up. So basically, if you want to try to beat this game, you'll definitely need to make your own maps, or I recommend using a guide. I ended up using a resource from Strategy Wiki and redrew the maps for myself so I could easily follow alongside as I played. And even then, the game can still be a challenge finding your way around. It's pretty confusing. So it starts out rather simple and easy, but in the later levels you'll be faced with some horrible platforming and screens with cheap pitfalls that will drain your spare lives before you know it. There is no continues. Practice in the later worlds is really the key, since this is where you'll face most of the challenge in the game. But with enough patience and perseverance, you can make it through to the end. As far as the keys, you can skip the need to use them in the last level if you are resourceful enough in the map quickly there with the minimal amount of power-ups to allow you to beat the final boss. You're going to have to watch your health very carefully though. Even with the obtuse level designs, I think the game is pretty fun, but a bit frustrating also. It has the signs of a rush job from Konami, and I would guess some assets were thrown in because they were extras or simply done very quickly on the side, like snakes and ducks, things like that. The game certainly has its shortcomings, but still maintains enough classic Konami charm and character that it walks the fine line between quality fun and annoyance. The music hits the mark pretty well, but there really isn't much variety in the amount of tracks that made it into the game. Definitely check this one out if you're a classic Konami fan and enjoy games like Esper Dream, I Senshi Nicole, or Metal Gear. It's a fascinating piece of gaming history and a good license game to boot. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Let me know what you think if you played this game or you want to check it out. Thanks, and have a good one.